Hi, everybody. All right, today we're going to start part 5 of Brown Girl Dreaming, and I forgot to put my bookmark in my place. So, here it is. Ready to Change the World is the title of this part. Our final part, after Greenville number 2. Remember, we read yesterday that her grandfather, who she calls Daddy, passed away, and that they went to visit her uncle in prison. After Daddy dies, my grandmother sells the house in Nickeltown, gives the brown chair to Miss Bell, Daddy's clothes to the brothers at the Kingdom Hall, the kitchen table and bright yellow chairs to her sister Lucinda in Fieldcrest Village. After Daddy dies, my grandmother brings the bed our mother was born in to Brooklyn, unpacks her dresses in the small, empty bedroom downstairs, puts her Bible, Watchtowers and Awakes, a picture of Daddy, on the little brown bookshelf. After Daddy dies, spring blurs into summer. Then winter comes on, too cold and fast, and my grandmother moves a chair to the living room window, watches the tree drop the last of its leaves. While boys play skelly and spinning tops in the middle of our quiet Brooklyn street. After Daddy dies, I learn to jump double Dutch slowly, tripping again and again over my 2 big feet, counting 10, 20, 30, 40 deep into the winter until one afternoon gravity releases me and my feet fly free in the ropes, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, as my grandmother watches me, both of our worlds changed forever. Mimosa tree. A mimosa tree, green and thin-limbed, pushes up through the snow. My grandmother brought the seeds with her from back home. Sometimes she pulls a chair to the window, looks down over the yard. The promise of glittering sidewalks feels a long time behind us now. No diamonds anywhere to be found. But some days, just after snow falls, the sun comes out, shines down on the promise of that tree from back home joining us here. Shines down over the bright white ground. And on those days, so much light and warmth fills the room that it's hard not to believe in a little bit of everything. Bubblegum cigarettes. You can buy a box of bubblegum cigarettes for $0.10 at the bodega around the corner. Sometimes Maria and I walk there, our fingers laced together, a nickel in each of our pockets. The bubblegum is pink with white paper wrapped around it. When you put it in your mouth and blow, a white puff comes out. You can really believe you're smoking. We talk with bubblegum cigarettes between our fingers, hold them in the air like the movie stars on TV. We let them dangle from our mouths and look at each other through slitted eyes, then laugh at how grown-up we can be, how beautiful. When my sister sees us pretending to smoke, she shakes her head. "That's why Daddy died," she says. After that, me and Maria peel the paper off, turn our cigarettes into regular bubble gum. After that, the game is over. What's left behind? "You've got Daddy's easy way," my grandmother says to me, holding the picture of my grandfather in her hands. "I watch you with your friends and see him all over again. Where will the wedding supper be? Way down yonder in a hollow tree." We look at the picture without talking. Sometimes I don't know the words for things, how to write down the feeling of knowing that every dying person leaves something behind. I've got my grandfather's easy way. Maybe I know this when I'm laughing. Maybe I know it when I think of Daddy and he feels close enough for me to lay my head against his shoulder. "I remember how he laughed," I tell my grandmother, and she smiles and says, "Because you laughed just like him. 2 peas in a pod you were. 2 peas in a pod we were." The stories I tell. Every autumn, the teacher asks us to write about summer vacation and read it to the class. In Brooklyn, everybody goes south or to Puerto Rico or to their cousin's house in Queens. But after my grandmother moves to New York, we only go down south once for my Aunt Lucinda's funeral. After that, my grandmother said she's done with the South, says it makes her too sad. But now, when summer comes, our family gets on a plane, flies to Africa, Hawaii, Chicago. For every summer vacation, we went to Long Island to the beach. Everybody went fishing and everybody caught a lot of fish. Even though no one in my family has ever been to Long Island or fished or likes the ocean, too deep, too scary, still, each autumn, I write a story. In my writing, there is a stepfather now who lives in California but meets us wherever we go. There is a church, not a kingdom hall. There is a blue car, a new dress, loose, unribboned hair. In my stories, our family is regular as air, 2 boys, 2 girls, sometimes a dog. Did that really happen? The kids in class ask. Yeah, I say. If it didn't, how would I know what to write? She's using that wild imagination for her stories. How to listen, number 8, another haiku. Do you remember? Someone's always asking, and someone always does. Fate and faith and reasons. Everything happens for a reason, my mother says, then tells me how Kay believed in fate and destiny. Everything that ever happened or was going to happen couldn't ever be avoided. The marchers down south didn't just up and start their marching. It was part of a longer, bigger plan that maybe belonged to God. My mother tells me this as we fold laundry, white towels separated from the colored ones, each a threat to the other, and I remember the time I spilled bleach on a blue towel, dotting it forever. The pale pink towel a memory of when it was washed with a red one. Maybe there is something after all to the way some people want to remain, each to its own kind. But in time, maybe, everything will fade to gray. Even all of us coming to Brooklyn, my mother says, wasn't some accident. And I can't help thinking of the birds here, how they disappear in the wintertime, headed south for food and warmth and shelter, heading south to stay alive, passing us on the way. No accidents, my mother says, just fate and faith and reasons. When I ask my mother what she believes in, she stops mid-fold and looks out the back window. Autumn is full on here and the sky is bright blue. I guess I believe in right now, she says, in the resurrection in Brooklyn and the 4 of you. What if? Maria's mother never left Puerto Rico and my mother never left Greenville. What if no one ever walked the grassy fields that are now Madison Street and said, let's put some houses here? What if the people in Maria's building didn't sell 1279 Madison Street to Maria's parents and our landlord told my mom that he couldn't rent 1283 to someone who already had 4 children? What if the park with the swings wasn't right across Knickerbocker Avenue? What if Maria hadn't walked out of her building one day and said, my name is Maria, but my mom calls me Goo Goo? What if I had laughed instead of saying, you're lucky, I wish I had a nickname too. You want to go to the park sometime? What if she didn't have a sister and 2 brothers and I didn't have a sister and 2 brothers and her dad didn't teach us to box and her mother didn't cook such good food? I can't even imagine any of it, Maria says. Nope, I say, neither can I. Bushwick history lesson. Before German mothers wrapped scarves around their heads, kissed their own mothers goodbye, and headed across the world to Bushwick, before the Italian fathers sailed across the ocean for the dream of America and found themselves in Bushwick, before Dominican daughters donned quinceañera, sorry, I can't say it right, sorry, Spanish speakers, dresses and walked proudly down Bushwick Avenue, before young brown boys in cut-off shorts spun their first tops and played their first games of skelly on Bushwick streets. Before any of that, this place was called Boschwick, settled by the Dutch, and a former slave who brought his freedom. And all of New York was called New Amsterdam, run by a man named Peter. That is true. All of New York was called New Amsterdam to begin with. There were slaves here. Those who could afford to own their freedom lived on the other side of the wall, and now that place is called Wall Street. That is true. When my teacher says, so write down what all of this means to you, our heads bend over our notebooks and the whole class silent. The whole class belonging somewhere, Bushwick. I didn't just appear one day. I didn't just wake up and know how to write my name. I keep writing, knowing now that I was a long time coming. How to listen, number 9. Under the back porch, there's an alone place I go, writing all I've heard. I'm going to read one more. The Promised Land. When my uncle gets out of jail, he isn't just my uncle anymore. He is Robert the Muslim and wears a small black kufi on his head. And even though we know we witnesses are the chosen ones, we listen to the stories he tells about a man named Muhammad and a holy place called Mecca and the strength of all black people. We sit in a circle around him, his hands moving slowly through the air, his voice calmer and quieter than it was before he went away. When he pulls out a small rug to pray on, I kneel beside him, wanting to see his Mecca, wanting to know the place he calls the Promised Land. Look with your heart and your head, he tells me, his own head bowed. It's out there in front of you. You'll know when you get there. Power to the people. On the TV screen, a woman named Angela Davis is telling us there's a revolution going on and that it's time for black people to defend themselves. So Maria and I walk through the streets, our fists raised in the air, Angela Davis style. We read about her in the daily news, run to the television each time she's interviewed. She is beautiful and powerful and has my same gap-toothed smile. We dream of running away to California to join the Black Panthers, the organization Angela is a part of. She is not afraid, she says, to die for what she believes in, but doesn't plan to die without a fight. The FBI says Angela Davis is one of America's most wanted. Already there are so many things I don't understand. Why someone would have to die or even fight for what they believe in. Why the cops would want someone who is trying to change the world in jail. We are not afraid to die, Maria and I shout, fists high, for what we believe in. But both of us know we'd rather keep believing and live. All right, I'm going to stop there. I'm putting my bookmark in for today. All right, you're going to have some more people to hopefully that you have already read about, or when you're finished with this video, you're going to have some more people. There are no questions about Brown Girl Dreaming today. We'll wait till we finish part 5. But you need to keep the essential questions in mind as I read Brown Girl Dreaming, because you're going to use this book to answer one of those essential questions in your culminating task next week. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then when you read about the other people, make sure you're adding to your notes so that when we do write the culminating task, you're going to have lots of people and lots of examples to list. Okay, thanks guys. See you tomorrow. Nope, see you Monday. Have a good weekend.